He didn't belong here. Not in the back of the plane. Not in the worn hoodie. Not with that name. But nobody looked twice, until her hand struck his face. Then the jet stopped, the cabin froze, and the sky outside went still. It was just a routine flight, until it wasn't. The line at Starbucks was slow, too slow for this hour, and the man behind him was already huffing. Jamal shifted his weight to the other foot and stared at the menu overhead like he hadn't memorized it years ago. Behind him, a voice, low and tight. Some folks don't know how to respect a line. Jamal didn't turn. By fike, he felt it more than heard it. The little flare of heat behind his ears, the weight pressing down his chest like an old coat. His fingers brushed the corner of his phone, and the screen lit up. A headline stared back at him. Sons of Tech Mogul. Donovan Brooks keeps low profile amid IPO frenzy. His own face, cropped small, tucked into the article like an afterthought. He finally stepped forward. Grande water, he told the barista. She looked at him, then at the man in the suit behind him, and didn't respond. The water came in a cup marked Fuel Up, a slogan, an afterthought, a habit. Gate C-27 was on the other end of the terminal. He walked slow, past newsstands and rows of blinking flight boards, until he found a seat beside a woman with a toddler digging fruit snacks out of a crumpled bag. The boy dropped a plastic dinosaur. Jamal picked it up, handed it back. The woman didn't look at him, just tugged the boy's wrist and turned away. He looked at his watch, then leaned back, letting the terminal noise sink into his ears. Wheels rolling over tile. An announcement, broken by static. The child's soft chewing. Boarding began. When he stood up and walked toward the gate, the woman behind the desk looked up and frowned. "Can I see your boarding pass?" He held it out. She glanced down, then back up. "This isn't first class." "I know." He handed her the same ticket again, flat-palmed, no edge in his voice. She scanned it, still frowning. He walked down the jet bridge. Inside the plane, light filtered soft and cold through the oval windows. Jamal stopped to help an older man hoist his suitcase into the overhead bin. The man grunted and didn't say thank you. Just muttered, "Didn't know manners came with Air Jordans." Jamal smiled faintly, stepped aside, sat in his row and slid the water cup into the seatback holder. The cup was almost empty, but he didn't toss it. He didn't drink coffee anymore, not since he was a teenager, but his father always bought one before a flight, and Jamal kept the habit, an echo of something older. A few rows ahead, a flight attendant adjusted the belt on a sweating man in a golf polo. Her voice was warm, practiced. "You're all set, sir." She turned and moved down the aisle. Jamal saw her before she saw him. She was older than him, late 40s maybe, with that airline polish. Neat bun, stiff posture. Her badge read, Leslie. When her eyes found him, they skimmed over his hoodie, lingered on his wrist, where a single word was inked in small, even letters. Still rising. Her smile dropped. A woman beside him struggled with her seatbelt, the ends clinking uselessly. Jamal leaned over slightly. "You gotta click the flat end into the... Yeah, there." Leslie appeared suddenly, her tone clipped. "Sir, please don't interfere with crew procedures." Jamal leaned back, was just helping. She moved on without another word. The engines hummed louder. The cabin lights dimmed. The plane started to roll. He pulled out his phone, thumb scrolling past a text from his mother, a notification from the Times, An unread message from someone named Bria. He let it all pass under his thumb like leaves in water. Leslie returned, now stiff, arms crossed. "Sir, I need you to turn that off." He looked up. Around him, 3 people were still scrolling, one laughing at a video with the sound on low. Everyone else is still on. Leslie didn't hesitate. Her hand came down fast, flat, and hard across his face. The sound cracked sharp in the narrow cabin. Everything stopped. The plane jerked, sudden and strange, the pilot braking like he'd seen a deer on the runway. Passengers swayed. A tray clinked to the floor. Silence fell like a dropped curtain. Jamal sat motionless. His face throbbed hot where the skin still remembered the shape of her palm. But he didn't speak, didn't stand, didn't flinch. A man across the aisle lowered his phone and started filming. Leslie stepped back, mouth parted, her hand trembling. No one said anything. Not the man in the suit who'd made noise in the coffee line. Not the woman with the child. Not even the woman he'd helped with the seatbelt. The engines idled low. The pilot's voice came through the speaker, calm and distant. "We'll be experiencing a brief delay due to an onboard incident. Please remain seated." Jamal looked toward the window. Outside, morning light washed the tarmac in pale gold. The reflection in the glass showed his own face, quiet, dark, still. He closed his eyes. The paper cup in front of him tipped gently with the rumble of the engines, then slipped free. It rolled down between his feet and fell, landing sideways. A slow blotch of brown crept from the bottom, where coffee had once lived. "Fuel up," it said in fading ink. The letters dissolved into the stain. No one moved. The plane remained on the ground, quiet and caged, waiting for something none of them could name. And Jamal didn't speak, didn't demand. He just breathed and waited. The delay stretched. Outside, the sun had climbed a little higher, slanting through the windows in long, tired beams. Inside, no one moved. The doors stayed sealed. No carts came through. No drinks. No apologies. Just the low, constant hum of engines and the heavy quiet that wrapped the cabin like static. The pilot's voice came again. "Airport security has been requested. We ask for your continued patience." Jamal didn't blink. His palms rested flat on his thighs, fingers spread, breath deep and slow like he was underwater. Across the aisle, a teenager lowered her earbuds and whispered something to her mother. A man in 4D stood halfway, thought better of it, and sank back down. Leslie had vanished. Somewhere up front, hidden from view, she sat in the galley, knees together, hands clenched in her lap. Her eyes were wide, but dry. Her face pale. She could hear the sound of her own voice echoing back at her. Sharp, cold, without pause. "He disrespected me. He was aggressive." But even as she said it, to herself, to no one, it sounded thinner each time. Jamal didn't look for her. He stared down at the water spreading under his seat. It smelled faintly of old coffee and plastic. His jaw was tight, but he didn't clench it. He could still feel the heat of the slap on his cheek, like a warning, like a line drawn. Don't move. Don't give them a reason. He heard his mother's voice as if she were sitting beside him. You don't get to make mistakes like they do. You walk soft. You keep your hands clean. You don't give them anything they can use. But what if he hadn't given anything? What if it was never about giving? The plane door finally opened with a long hiss. The sound made a few passengers jolt in their seats. Then the footfalls came, firm, steady, the kind of walk that meant a badge was coming. 2 TSA officers stepped inside. The first one scanned the rows with quiet authority, eyes landing on Jamal with no surprise. The second one followed, radio clipped to his vest, hand resting lightly on his belt. The first man spoke. "Sir, step off the plane with us, please." Jamal didn't move. He raised his eyes. "Am I under arrest?" There was a pause, one of those moments too quiet to ignore. Then, "No, sir. We just need to speak with you." From somewhere behind them, a man in a tailored gray suit leaned toward Leslie, who had reappeared, pale and stiff. "You better fix this," he hissed under his breath. "Do you know who that is?" "That's Brooks's kid." Leslie didn't respond. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Her gaze snapped toward Jamal, then away just as quickly. The same gate agent who had doubted his seat now stood beside the officers. Her voice had changed. "Sir, please come with us," she said, softer, polished. "We just need a few minutes of your time." Jamal stood slowly. He didn't glance around to see if anyone was watching. He knew they were. Knew that cameras were out now, eyes wide and hands still. But he moved with calm. No resistance. Just the weight of it all in his shoulders. As he reached the front of the plane, a voice broke the quiet. "I saw what happened." A woman, young, brown hair in a loose bun, glasses low on her nose, stood up from her seat 3 rows back. "She hit him. I saw it." One of the officers turned. "Ma'am, please stay seated." "No," she said, her voice rising just enough. She was hostile to him before that, too. He didn't do anything. He didn't even raise his voice. Jamal paused, eyes flicking toward her, then away. Others started murmuring. The man in the golf shirt cleared his throat and looked down. The teenager whispered something to her mother again. An older woman near the exit began to fumble with her phone, shaking her head. The officers didn't respond. One of them gestured toward the jet bridge. Jamal nodded once and walked out. The room they took him to was small and cold. A single table. No window. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like insects. A camera in the corner blinked quietly. The man behind the table had short salt and pepper hair and a name tag that read M. Swee Hollis. He offered a bottle of water. Jamal didn't take it. Hollis folded his hands. "Would you like to press charges?" Jamal looked at him. The question hung in the air, dry and heavy. "No," he said, "but I want the truth written down." Hollis nodded once, wrote something on the form in front of him. Across the terminal, in a different room, Leslie sat surrounded by silent airline executives. One of them replayed the video. Again. Again. The slap was crisp, clear. Her voice just before it, tight, clipped. "He disrespected me," she said one more time. But her voice cracked. Another man in the corner, young, PR badge on his chest, looked sick. "We have a problem," he said. Leslie's eyes stayed on the screen, her own hand rising fast, her own eyes narrowing. "He looked at me like I wasn't in charge," she muttered. No one responded. Back in the interview room, Jamal sat with his fingers around the old coffee cup, now filled with water. He turned it once, twice, watched the lettering fade beneath the rim. His phone vibrated. The caller ID said, "Brooks Media." He answered. A woman's voice. "Jamal, we'll take care of this. We've done it before." He didn't say anything. "We'll talk to the board. Press won't get the name. They never do." He looked at the ceiling. "Don't," he said, then hung up. At the airport's press room later that afternoon, the podium stood empty for a beat too long. Then Jamal walked out. No escort, no script, just his own clothes, his own name, and the silence that followed him. The cameras were already rolling. He stepped to the mic. "I'm not here for a lawsuit," he said. A pause. "I'm here for accountability." He lifted his arm. The word on his wrist caught the light. Still rising. He stepped away before anyone could ask a question. He didn't look back. The flashbulbs went off anyway. Through the wide hall of the terminal, he walked alone. People parted as he passed, some glancing, some staring, most saying nothing. Just the soft rhythm of his steps on the polished floor, and the low, electric hum of travel in the air. He sat at an empty gate, closed his eyes, breathed, and the airport, Atlanta, loud and sprawling, was quiet. A letter waited for him on the kitchen table in Chicago. Not an email. Not a statement typed by interns and lawyers. A real letter on heavy paper, the kind that left faint fibers on your fingers. The return address bore the logo of the airline. No PR seal, no marketing gloss. Inside, the handwriting slanted slightly right, deliberate and tired. "Mr. Brooks, we failed you. I failed you. Not because of who you are, but because of who we forgot you were allowed to be. You deserved safety, not suspicion. For that, I'm deeply sorry. It wasn't signed by a team, just a name. The CEO." Jamal read it once, then folded it and placed it on his father's old workbench, beside a cracked mug that still smelled faintly of engine oil and pine. Outside, the city groaned under clouds. Inside, the furnace clicked on with a shudder. Familiar, heavy, alive. He didn't answer the letter. Others answered for him. Talk shows called it the slap seen around the sky. Commentators split clean down the middle, half calling him dignified, the other half calling him manipulative. Some asked why he didn't fight back. Some asked why he got on the plane in the first place. One crew union issued a brief, careful statement, not in support of Leslie, but against the silence that came before her act. "This system," it read, "devours everybody." Leslie herself reappeared 2 weeks later. Live interview. No notes. "I was tired," she said. "Burned out. Disrespected." She looked directly into the camera. "But none of that justifies what I did. Not because of who he is, but because of who I wasn't in that moment." And then she lowered her eyes and didn't speak again. The airline called Jamal 3 days later. They offered him a position, an advisory role. Diversity, culture, reform. 6 figures. Private travel. PR clout. He sat through the pitch, quiet, listening. At the end, he nodded. "I'll do it," he said, "but not for pay." There was a pause on the line. Someone cleared their throat. "Use the money," he said, "to train the next flight attendant. Someone who listens." That part didn't make the press release, but something else did. Passengers from the flight began sharing stories. One had been misidentified twice. One had watched her father escorted off a plane for asking for water twice. A pilot resigned the next week, leaving behind a note in the break room. Not gonna fly blind anymore. The story kept spreading, quietly, organically, not like a storm, more like a tide, washing through terminals, waiting areas, security lines. In a quiet suburb, a boy watched the coverage on TV beside his father. It was the same boy Jamal had helped with the plastic dinosaur. He pointed at the screen, eyes wide. "Dad," he said, "I want to be like him." At Atlanta's Hartsfield Airport 1 month later, morning light filtered through high windows, soft and golden. The line at Starbucks moved slow again, but not tense. Calm, familiar. Jamal stood near the front. People around him shifted, not away, but aside. A small gesture, nothing loud. No one said why. The barista, a young man with a lip ring and a gentle voice, leaned forward. "Your usual?" Jamal smiled. "Just water." The cup came. Same size, same logo. "Fuel up." He took it and stepped away, letting the line breathe. Near a column, someone whispered, "That's him." He didn't turn. He just took a sip. The water was cold, sharp, clean. He exhaled softly, barely audible, like the hush of landing wheels, or the hush before applause. Then, to no one in particular, and maybe only to himself, he said, "Finally, not flying under radar."